Corso and Catone.
I think, well, listen, Mark, listen, hold on. When I say, would you have caffeine today?
What the hell is that up to then?
Presented by Special Sauce Podcast, Studio 42 Design, and Corso Law Group. Now for the real deal New England feel, Corso and Catone.
Welcome into Corso and Catone, the real deal New England feel. Happy New Year. I am Corso. Catone is here. Joe is in the booth, and you're listening and watching on YouTube, listening on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcast, anywhere you podcast, and you can listen to us live right now on Podbean. And listen, give us a call, 855-313-PATS, our heated hotline. Leave us a message 24/7. Anything's on the table. Let us know what your New Year's resolutions are for next week. We're going to have some special New Year's resolution surprises next week, according to Mr. Catone. So give us a call, 855-313-7287. Listen, we got a packed one today. In the Pats Nation, we're going to recap and go back to the Raider and Cincinnati game and talk about what went on in that game, including Mac Mania, Coach's Corner, and we'll have our Sunday stiffs for both of those games and maybe even stiffs for each game. So, and then we're going to come back and Pat's preview and talk that Dolphins game tomorrow. They kick off at 1 p.m. from Gillette Stadium, an all-important matchup. We'll have our offensive and defensive keys to victory, as well as our game predictions. And, of course, step up to the sports book. We're going to have our Sunday spread. We're going to give you our locks of the week and a few other games that you can look to. So, gentlemen, I hope you both had a wonderful Christmas getting ready for New Year's.
I did. It was nice. It was relaxing. It was nice. But now it's time to get back to work and make some money.
Yep. Yeah,
Joe, there was a long pause there when I asked him.
That's a hesitation. That's a
long.
long.
Because I mean, you know, you know how the holidays are very stressful.
Yeah. Well, you know, you let the people know how stressful it was. You know, now all the returns happen.
Yeah.
Now it's Cyber Return Day.
Yeah, I don't deal with that nonsense.
It's Cyber Monday. So, but yeah, you know what? We got a lot to talk about, especially in the Patriots. So let's get to that and let's go Pats Nation, Joe.
Are you ready for the Pats Nation? The only real deal Patriot postgame show. And now, Corso and Catone.
Pats Nation, the only Patriots post-game show, recap show worth watching. And Mark, 2 games have been played since we spoke last. Thank God we weren't talking.
2 losses, by the way. 2 losses, by the way.
Which I predicted. In fact, I had the Cardinals game as a loss too. And I think it made.
What do you predicted? Well,
I did.
Anybody could have predicted those losses. The team stinks. They stink.
Well, yeah, they do stink. They really do at this point. But they lost to the Raiders on the road, 30-24, and it was an ugly offensive game, Mark. And then they come back against Cincinnati, and they lose that game too, 22-18, a much closer game. But as Mark's going to tell us, it wasn't really as close as the score. But let's back up a little bit to that Raider game. And I think taking these 2 games combined, right, generally speaking, what's your impression of this team after those 2?
They're a bad football team. Listen, they don't play good situational football. Offensively, they don't have a clue. The coaching is pitiful. It gets worse by the week. It's just a bad team, Chris. The way they lost those games are the way bad teams lose football games. You and I have talked about this for years, and we've been spoiled because we're not one of those teams. But watching the last 2 weeks, we're a bad team, and that's what bad teams do. That's how they lose football games. The way we lost both those games. It totally disgraceful, total dysfunction, especially in that Raider game at the end. I don't know what that was. But Mac Jones was horrific in that game. Bad situational football, like I said. Chris, it's just bad. The wheels have come off. And it's like, it's just, they came off.
We had Kyle Vandenbosch on, a 12-year NFL vet, 3-time Pro Bowler, a couple of weeks ago, preparing for that Cardinal game. And he talked about situational football, and that's the earmark of the Patriots. And he gave Belichick props and all that. But he's on the other side of the country, and like a lot of people in the country and the national people, Belichick's still hanging on. He's still hanging on in name. But for us and for all you, everyone in the nation out there and all you Corso Catone, we are the real deal. So we bring it every week, and we're telling you that situational football's gone. I agree with Mark. I mean, that end of the game stuff that happened.
Explain that though. Why would you even call? Why would that even be a possibility? Was that called from the bench, or did the players improvise?
There's a couple of theories on that right now that I've been listening to. First, I don't really have a problem with the play because you see that all the time. I mean, you see that at the end of the game.
I don't have a problem with the play if you're behind, but in a tie game, why?
No, it was a draw. So, I'm talking
about the lateral. I'm not talking about the draw itself. The draw itself.
But the lateral's a player. That's a player decision. I can't imagine, as dysfunctional as this team is, I still can't imagine.
Okay, that's what I was asking.
Saying Ramondre Stevenson, hey, if you see an opening, go ahead and lateral the ball. You just don't do it. It's a mind blow at the moment it's happening.
Yeah.
But you know what's funny? The theory I was telling you about it, that play, and we'll move on from it, but is a lot of people think that the Patriots were padding their stats a little bit, padding their numbers because they're so bad in third down. Their third down numbers are so bad, okay, that they figured, we'll grab a third down conversion here. I mean, they're 2 of 13 in the game, Mark. And I think maybe that was one of them. I think that was one of the two. It was a bad, terrible play. But my point is, situational football for them is gone. Like, they don't know what to do. They don't know what to do, Mark. And if you put it on the players, you put it on the coaches, it's a little both.
And Chris, at the end of the game, when they asked Belichick about the play, and why didn't they just throw the ball to the end zone? Maybe you get lucky, right? Belichick said, wasn't an option, couldn't reach. Okay. Fast forward to the Cincinnati game.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, guess what? He could have reached from that point, that spot on the field. So that just blew his bullshit story away that he came up with. And as soon as he said it, I said to my son, that's BS. Because you know how many times he did that at Alabama? They'd be at their own 40, and he'd throw the ball to Devontae Smith for a touchdown in the end zone. The opposite. That's bullshit. That was total bullshit. But the problem is, Belichick gets a pass, Chris. Nobody presses him on these idiotic statements that he makes. Nobody does.
Well, yeah. And speaking of Mac, we're going to get to Mac Mania right now. But, yeah, the thing is, that's right, Joe. Exactly. Finally, somebody step up. They should let Mark and I in those press conferences. That's who needs to be in those press conferences, you and I.
Because, Chris, if you're going to give him a pass, okay, give him a pass. But Jesus Christ, Chris, now you're insulting our intelligence. The guy's a professional football player. He played at Alabama, by the way, with 3 All-Americans and 3 guys who are studs in the NFL. And you're telling me he couldn't make that throw? He wouldn't have been the starting quarterback at Alabama. That's bullshit. And he knows it's bullshit, but nobody presses him on it.
No, and we need to talk about the antics and the emotions and all of that. And let's do that right now in Mac Mania.
That's a whole other issue, but yeah.
Mac Mania!
So 13 of 31. Yes, I said that. 13 of 31 for 112 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, average of 3.5 yards per completion. This is in the Raiders game, Mark. This is in the Raiders game. And while I'm pulling up the other numbers, what do you make of that? What do you make of his performance in that Raider game?
It was so bad, Chris. It was awful. That was his worst performance as a professional, I believe, in that game. It was just piss poor. It was bad decision making, bad everything, bad coaching offensively. It was just a bad game. But for him, it was his worst game professionally. I mean, you got to give him an F for his performance in that game, Chris. And because of the defense and because the Raiders are so bad, still were in the game and had a chance to win it if you go to overtime. But the defense failed us at the end. They let the Las Vegas go down there and tie that game, right?
Well, with Mac Jones, though, look, 13 completions. Okay. Let's put it in some kind of perspective for a minute. On a normal scoring drive, say you start at the 25-yard line, okay?
What, 6, 7, 8 completions?
You're going to have at least 5 to 7 completions because mainly it's a throwing league. So to get to a touchdown, unless you have a long throw, but if you have a normal drive, 8 plays, 6 to 9 to 10 plays, something like, you're going to have 7 completions. That's half. So in one drive, you're going to have half of what he had the entire game. That's bad. It's really bad.
Real bad.
The percentage sucks. His rating sucked. And now, a couple of weeks ago, we talked about we like the emotion out of him, and I like the emotion. But Mark pointed out something, not when the emotion starts to affect how you are on the field and how the speed is, right? For you?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's starting to show up. And I think it's starting to affect the huddle because I think his frustration is now spreading. If you listen to the comments of some of the players, Chris, it's not I think that is spreading now to the huddle, and that's absolutely not what you want to see happen. But it's now happening. So how you're getting to a breaking point now where there's no way you can bring Patricia back and Judge unless Jones is not the quarterback, or vice versa. If you're bringing them back, then Jones can't be there. So you've reached that breaking point. There's no way you can come back with the same offensive coaching staff and Jones next year, Chris, just because of what he's demonstrated and the fact that I think it's now entered into the huddle.
He's had, there was look, you could see this with him. He was an emotional kid. His second day in practice, his first season in training camp, his second day, okay? Something happened, had to throw a ball into the ground, got all pissed off. I mean, he was all pissed off in that practice, all kinds of antics, walking away, swearing. It's second day in practice as a pro, okay, when he was competing with Cam Newton. And, Slater had to go up to him. A couple guys had to, kind of walk up to him and talk. I mean, this is what you have. And at the time, we talked about it and said, hey, this guy's a fiery guy. It's finally, we got somebody that cares, da-da-da. Well, you go and you take inept and you put it with this kid who has that kind of emotion and understands what a real good offense looks like and coaching looks like. You put it with a kid like this that's now, I would say, he's volatile that way. Yeah, it's a recipe for a serious issue on the sideline because all the players are going to follow the quarterback. I mean, they're going to follow the quarterback.
And I think they are, Chris, right? I think they are.
It's been that way for several weeks. So, okay. So we got all that. We understand the emotional part of it. And I agree. You look at what the hell happened with, and again, Van der Bosch again talked about Matthew Slater. He played with Matthew Slater, right? And he talked about how there was nobody more prepared. Nobody worked harder. But he looked like crap in Detroit. And who was the heck? Matt Patricia was there. Daniel Jones, who the Giants are on the verge of maybe a playoff, and the first half of the season that kid had.
Joe Judge.
Joe Judge, he ruined that kid practically. So we talked about this when you brought these guys on, and they said, so they're going to ruin this kid. And
so, Chris, listen, as a player, right? You were in a huddle, right? So as a player, if you, as a player, understand the scheme, the concept, and have an understanding of what you should be calling, and your coaches don't, and they're not calling it, how do you even perform? What is that level of trust and respect? I mean, as a player, you did it. I don't even know how that's even possible that you're going to go out there and play for these two buffoons. I don't care about Belichick. I'm taking Belichick out of the equation. I'm just talking about Patricia and Judge. Really, Patricia. How do you play for him? He has no respect. He has no respect. I think he has respect for Patricia as a person. But I don't think he doesn't have respect for Patricia in the position he's in. And I think it's gotten so bad. It's been so bad, Mark, that
you went from hating Patricia to now hating Belichick for putting Patricia there, meaning you feel bad. You went from hating Patricia to feeling bad for Patricia.
Okay.
That's how bad it
And
is.
so now that what you just said brings up a point, which I know we're going to get into as this season ends. How did Kraft think that this was going to be okay, this setup, when you and I, anybody that knew anything about football knew this was a recipe for disaster, and that's what you have. But yet the Krafts, we trust Bill, they allowed this to happen. Something has to give, I think, in that relationship too, Chris. It just has to, especially if you lose the next 2 games. I mean, Jesus. Because I'm going to tell you something. Game 17 is going to be ugly. It's going to be ugly.
It is. And listen, and to finish off with Mac Jones, okay, so we understand all that. The respect level for what's happening in the coaching is just, it's not there. It's documented. We all see it. Everyone, you got to be a moron
what about his
not
performance
to see it.
in Cincinnati?
So, okay, so in Cincinnati, and I want to ask you about his quarterbacking, because you can't have it both ways. You can't say, well, they don't respect the coaches. Okay, and so therefore they're not even listening anymore, and then go out on the field and pull moves like Jacoby Myers did and perform in situations you can't. Look, these players, if you kind of say these players know what they're talking about, they know what a good offense looks like, they know all this stuff, well, then they ought to know some of the things they're doing. Mark, Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith ran into each other, and Henry hurt his knee. Now, I can't imagine they're being coached on that play to do that. So if you can't, people out there, you can't have it both ways. If you're telling me the players are smart and they understand what good football is and therefore they're not listening, then then they're NFL players who should understand out on the field.
Chris,
and how
I'm going to tell you something.
I mean, in some aspects.
But Chris, I also think you're 1,000% right with that comment. But I am going to say this too. I think that this offense and these players are so goddamn confused and so I don't think there's no rhyme or reason to anything that's being called. I think they're an undisciplined team, and this is where I think this comes in a little bit, Chris. I think they're an undisciplined team on offense. I don't think guys really know where they're lining up. It's week 15. They still don't get like what they're doing out there, Chris. I'm going to be honest with you. And I think that crisscross when they banged into each other because I don't think they knew what the hell they were supposed to be doing on the play.
No, and you had a player open.
As NFL players, they should. You're 100% right.
Yeah, and if you watch the play, you had the wide receiver open on that deeper out to the sideline, that either that bench route or something like that on the sideline. And because those two guys pulled defenders into the play, now Mac Jones is scrambling around. And what the hell? Where am I going with the ball? Mark, we talked about being live. We talk about Mac Jones and how he's playing, though. There's a lot there to improve on. I mean, he is not playing good football. Now, whether or not the emotions are trickling in or whatever, we still look at him as a pro. He's throwing off back foot. He's missing guys. He's not reading this field properly. He's overthrowing, underthrowing, putting guys in positions to get hurt. So, not setting up his protection.
Yeah, mentally, he's gone, right? There's no bringing it back. So. You're right. Setting up protection, making the proper read, maybe changing a play at the line of scrimmage, doing different things, Chris. He's not there. It's gone. Whatever it's supposed to be going on, it's gone. So that's over. You're right. He's playing bad. He's making poor decisions. He's not making the reads and is not understanding. It looks like in some cases, Chris, he's not understanding what's in front of him. And he should be able to at this point. You're almost completing your second year as an NFL quarterback. And if you're supposed to be the next guy, well, shit, you should be able to overcome some of that coaching. If your coaching sucks, but you're that good and you're the next guy, then you should be able to overcome some of that by making some changes or doing different things at the line, and he's not. So to your point, Chris, I don't know. Maybe he's not that next guy, but you're going to have to make a decision pretty damn quick.
Yeah.
On whether he is or not.
Well, you asked me about Cincinnati. He was 21 of 33 for 240, and 2 touchdowns. But that came, one of the touchdowns bounced, was one of those road runner kind of bounced off one guy, hit Jacoby Myers. I mean, that was a third down and like 6 20 conversion.
Yeah,
You know,
I don't know.
They weren't good. Listen, I'm going
Chris,
to just
listen,
give you a
if
couple
it
of
wasn't
quick
for a
numbers.
couple of penalties, Chris, if it wasn't for a couple
Yeah.
of penalties in key situations, Cincinnati would have had like 36, 37 points in the first half.
Not just that, but well, first of all, in the Raider game, Derek Carr showed up, and that Duggar pick let them back in the game. In Cincinnati, I don't care what anybody says, because you're going to see it on Monday night, because it's one of my picks this week. Cincinnati is going to show you that they let down in the second half of that Patriots game. To me, it was more about what Cincinnati didn't do. And we used to say that with the Patriots, remember? It was more about what they didn't do than what the Patriots did.
Listen,
right.
You're finally giving Cincinnati a little bit of credit for what they've been doing, because I've been talking about them for a year and a half, and I know you've disagreed with me, but now you're starting to come around with the fact that, listen, this kid Joe Burrow is legit. He's got a great receivers around him. Shit, you could throw to these guys, right? And if they beat Buffalo, they're setting themselves up for what, a number 2 seed. You know. So, and if Kansas City
depending
stumbles,
on Kansas City,
Kansas City stumbles. Cincinnati's the 1 seed. Cincinnati gets the 1 seed in the bye, Chris. They're going back to the Super Bowl, because you're not going in there and beating that team.
So that's the deal with Mac Jones. And for the rest of the offense in both of these games, it's more of what we're talking about. It's pitiful. I mean, it's just a couple of numbers in the Cincinnati game in the first half. This is how you know Cincinnati let down and they folded. They had 20 non-kneel down plays the Patriots ran. 20, which is not good, first of all. Okay, that means 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. One play was for 29 yards, 1 for 11, 1 for 9, 1 for 6, and 9 for 0. I mean,
that's bad.
That's 13, and the rest of them had to be. The rest of them were negative yards. So,
that's bad.
Mark, it's terrible. It's awful. It's terrible. It's coaching. It's execution. It's players checking out.
Chris, before we came on the air,
is the running back.
Before we came on the air, you said to me in that Vegas game, when you coach 9 and 10-year-olds, you had more completions in a game, and they weren't even geared to throw the ball at that age. No. But you had more completions in a game than Mac Jones did against the Raiders. That pretty much sums it up, right? 9 and 10-year-olds.
Yeah, I mean, I only threw 21 times, but it's terrible. The offense is not good. The players, if you watch the games and you watch coaches film on these games, the receivers are bad right now. They're bad. They're rounding routes. They're running into each other. They're pulling defenders into zones. They're not playing well. And when the ball is on them, and I know how much you love Thornton. Okay.
Well,
but when you do get your opportunities, catch the ball.
You got to catch the ball. I agree, Chris. Because if you can't catch the ball,
I don't like how they used him either.
But I'm just talking about the way they're using him. I don't think they have a goddamn clue on what to do with a guy with that amount of speed. But whatever.
So the bottom line is
maybe he's a stiff. He could be a stiff. I don't know.
The bottom line is this. You want to know who this team is right now? Get in a time machine, okay? You remember those teams in the 90s with Bledsoe and Coach? Yeah. Do you remember they were always in a game? We were always saying this. Throughout the whole season, we were always saying, if in the Green Bay game we were able to do something in overtime of that last fourth down play, third down play, 3rd and 5, we could have done this. Or can you imagine if we beat Oakland in that game? Or can you imagine if we won an overtime against this one? Or if we make one play here and one play there? It was always, we can't close. We're right there. But if Bledsoe didn't throw the ball to Brisby, and instead he should have thrown the ball to Coates, and maybe we win that game and we're 9 wins. That's what this team is.
Chris, the only difference is, right? The only difference, and Ted Johnson was on this week, and he said some of those teams in the late 90s with Bledsoe before Brady came, Johnson was on those teams.
Yeah.
And Johnson said the only difference is on those teams, he said we had respect for our coaches. We were playing hard. He said this particular team looks like in some cases they've quit. He said they don't have any respect for the guys leading them on the sideline. He said, and that's a big difference compared to those teams. He said, because you can see that they don't respect these guys.
Listen.
Coaches.
You know what? Screw
And
you,
I know
Ted
John-
Johnson. No,
Listen,
you know what?
I'm
Ted
just
Johnson's got
telling
an
you
axe
what
to
he
grind.
said.
No, the hell with Ted Johnson. Okay,
All right.
Ted Johnson's got an axe to grind against Belichick, and every time I see that meathead on friggin' on the TV, he's saying the same kind of crap. All those undertones of it. Yeah, you didn't quit on Pete Carroll, really? You didn't quit on Pete Carroll?
He claims
There was a play. Listen, Ted, you come on this show and I'll remember the games. There was a play against Pittsburgh, okay, where Cordell Stewart was going down this. You remember this. I know you remember this, Mark. Cordell Stewart broke the pocket, and he was coming down the sideline, the visitor's sideline toward the north end zone, okay? And he was coming down that sideline, and 2 or 3 defenders let up. They stopped. And and Carroll was pressed in the press conference. He was pushed, okay, in the press conference. How do you explain that? That's unacceptable. You know, the way they don't do things with Belichick now. They don't push him.
Yeah.
They push Carroll. So you're telling me that Ted Johnson, you're full of shit. That team quit on Pete Carroll all day long, period. Okay? Get the hell out of there with that crap.
Joe, I got a little excitement out of him, Joe.
You know,
We got a little
what
excitement.
bullshit that is. And I got the example, too.
Gonna be a
But
new
yeah, Mark,
year
this
for sure.
team, yeah, that's it. Here we go. The hell with the resolutions. This team's a mess. And defensively, look, they're hanging in there, Mark. We like the pass rush. We like where they're going with it for the future. You know, Judon's not going anywhere. Uche's not going anywhere. Barnmore's not going anywhere like that. Secondary,
listen, you got Jack Jones and Marcus Jones. If they're healthy, you got a good cornerstone moving forward. You got some young guys, Chris, that you can build around on that defense. You do.
Yep. And I like Jonathan Jones too. I do. I like him too. I think I like Duggar. Phillips has kind of dropped off, but you know, they improved
McCourty,
in the middle,
it's time
and
for
I think they're
McCourty
pretty
to move
good.
on.
Yeah,
it's time for McCourty to move on. Yeah.
What he's done past 30 is excellent, but it's just time.
now
So I
he's
mean,
done.
defensively, there's promise.
And Chris, they did not play bad defensively in that Raider game.
No, I mean, Garrett Cobb gave him a gift, and Duggar took it, and that's what brought them back into that game. That pick six.
The Cincinnati game, you played a horrific first half, but in the second half, the defense showed up.
Yeah, they did. They did, and they held Adams in that first game. You know, Chase in the second game. I mean, you know, where are the numbers? Cincinnati receiving. Jamar Chase he had 8 receptions for 79 yards off 11. You know, that's no touchdowns. That's a win.
That's a win against him. That's a win.
You know, so I mean, the defensively they're not. And I know we're over, but defensively, I don't think they're in that bad a shape. I don't think they played bad in either one of these. They played good enough to win the games. Now, look, I get it. You allowed that touchdown in the Raider game to tie it. You had the lead. Okay, you had the lead. You gave up the lead. First of all, that wasn't a touchdown. His foot was on the line, period. I don't care what anyone says. That wasn't a touchdown. But you gave it up. I get it. But you didn't even get a chance in overtime. You didn't even get a chance. And in the last game, you know, Stevenson wants to fumble the ball. I got no problem with Stevenson, though. So defensively, I think they're okay. But, man, I'm so sick of looking at them like the 90s. If they won those 2 games, they'd be 9 wins, Mark. They'd be in the playoffs right now. That's how bad the AFC is.
It is. It's a bad conference. Both conferences really are bad. Look at Tampa Bay. They're fighting. They're playing for first place. They got a losing record.
Oh, that's atrocious over there. It really is. So
that's atrocious. Awful.
So we're going to see what happens, and we're going to talk about this game tomorrow and what it means and so on. I know, you know, we didn't get to Coach's Corner, but I do want to talk. I just want to give.
I think we talked enough about how
but Joe
the coaching is.
Yeah, but Joe didn't get to play that nice wash he likes. He likes that
wash.
Oh,
Joe likes the wash.
That's all right.
We'll get it to you.
We'll do it next year.
We'll do it. We'll do it next year. The hell with it. But I do want to give our Sunday stiffs, if we haven't, real quick, Mark. Joe, you know what? He loves to watch it.
Doing it anyways.
You're off at this point. Yeah, that's it. He doesn't care. Mark, who's both of these games?
Sunday stiff in the Oakland game, Chris, was Mac Jones. Good Lord. It could have been Jacoby Myers, obviously. Yeah. That's why you lost the game. But I have to give it to Mac Jones in that Cincinnati, in that Raiders game, Chris. It was awful. That Vegas game. I mean, Mac Jones is my Sunday stiff. And in the Cincinnati game, My Sunday stiff, if you watch the film, Chris, it was almost embarrassing how badly he got pushed over and ran around and pushed through. And your buddy, Cole Strange, oh my God, Chris. You want to talk about a stiff offensive lineman. He looked like he didn't belong on the field last Sunday, Chris. It was his worst performance of the year. They were just blowing by him like he wasn't even there. He played horrible last week, which also caused Mac Jones to rush some throws, not have help on that side of the you know what I mean? He hurt Jones because Jones was getting rushed on a lot of throws, Chris, because Cole Strange couldn't hold anybody off him.
Yeah. Number 29 pick in the draft. For me, we're at
pre-draft, all those guys you mentioned, N'Kobe Dean, all these guys, and that was your 29th pick in the draft. That is awful.
For me, it's Belichick. It's gotten to that point now.
Okay.
It's Belichick. That's it. The buck stops here. You've been bitching. You've been talking all beginning of the season how it's on me. It's on me, but you won't own it. It's on me, but you won't own it in press conferences. Those days of no. Call it what you want. And, I like the reporter that actually the only one I've heard that said, "Yeah, I'm asking you what you call it." He said, "I know what I call it. I'm asking you what you call it." Finally, somebody pushes just a little bit on whether or not it was a good defensive performance or So it's Bill Belichick in both instances to me. In both games and probably for the rest of the season. So the Pats Nation was presented by Corso Law Group, Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm, corsolawgroup.com. Allow us to be your voice. Hey, when we come back, we're going to preview that Dolphins game when they kick off at 1 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. Don't go anywhere on the other side.
It's that time again for a timeout for a message from one of our sponsors. No one ever thinks they will be in the need of a criminal or traffic lawyer, but things happen. Corso Law Group is Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. Their 20-plus years experience and attention to detail has helped thousands of people all across this great country who found themselves in a situation in Arizona. So whether it's a traffic ticket or if you need reduced DUI or more serious issues, call or go online to corsolawgroup.com and talk with these expert attorneys who I know will help you. Corso Law Group.
Back in with more Corso and Catone, the real deal, New England Field. Tomorrow, the Patriots host the Miami Dolphins at 1 p.m. Eastern, kickoff, an all-important game. Believe it or not, they're still sniffing at the playoffs, the Patriots are. They're battling with Miami and the Jets for that last spot. And as bad as the Patriots have been, losing 2 in a row, Miami's coming off what? A 4-game losing streak? So, Mark, let's preview that game. Joe, Pat's preview. That's my favorite one, Joe. That's my favorite one. I love that. I love that. Even with the slugs that they are right now, that still gets me pumped up a little bit. You know what I mean? So, Mark, all important game tomorrow. If you value that last spot, if you value it all, getting into the playoffs at all, and then getting your brains
so you can go get. Yes, I was going to say that. So you can go get your brains beat in. Yeah, get in there. You can get your brains kicked in.
But looking at this game tomorrow, both teams are reeling a bit, and now Miami's missing Tua. They're going to go with Bridgewater. We have injury problems of our own. But generally speaking, when you look at this game, what do you see?
I think we're in a lot of trouble, Chris. I'm going to tell you why. Because I know Tua's out, but Bridgewater is a functional backup quarterback who's got a lot of experience in this league that can throw the ball. Wear it out Jack Jones. Wear it out Marcus Jones. Yeah. They already ruled them out. Jalen Mills, I don't know. Even if he plays, he's not 100% healthy. You got a lot of issues in the secondary, Chris. And, oh, by the way, you got Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill coming to town who are going to be running all over the damn field. You got a problem tomorrow, I think, unless you can get a ton of pass pressure on Bridgewater. Your secondary, Chris, is in a lot of trouble tomorrow. You don't think?
Yeah, I mean, that's what they brought Marcus Jones. That's one of the reasons they drafted Marcus Jones. And by the way, God, you got to love that player. I mean,
but by the way, Chris, he's been one of your
player.
spark plugs on offense, special teams, offense, everything.
He's your do-it-all guy, and he's doing it well. He has pick sixes.
Way,
he's got fumble recoveries. He's got touchdown runs.
By the way, when he got drafted, what did I say to you? I really like this pick. You questioned it. I told you I liked it.
Don't tell me I questioned. I told you I liked the player. I didn't like the spot. They would have had him somewhere else, you jerk. Don't tell me that. You know? But
the real question.
No, seriously, Chris, we're in trouble without
the real
him
question,
and Jack Jones.
The real question is, can the defense win these next two games?
Right. It is, Joe. That's it.
That's it.
It is. Well, they can't. They
mouth
definitely
of
can't win
babes.
Week 17. You know.
Out of the mouths of babes. No. Yeah, he's right. I mean, how do you and flipping to the other side of the ball, well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the Patriots on offense a little bit. First of all, you're going to be able to run the ball tomorrow? That's a question for you, Mr. Catone. Are they going to run the ball? Are they?
Yeah, I think they will, Chris, because I think Miami's defense has struggled. As you said, they're reeling, and I think their defense is reeling a little bit. I think that the strength of Miami's defense is, they can get some pressure off the edge, and they can get some pressure on the quarterbacks. Look, he took the Sam Rothstein glasses out, Joe.
Because I disagree with you. Because I disagree with you, and I'm going to bring the numbers. But go ahead.
Okay, listen, I don't care if you disagree. I'm telling you the eye test. You play the eye test. You're looking at numbers. I'm using the eye test. They don't muster up. We're going to run the ball on them. We're going to have 150 yards rushing tomorrow against Miami. How's that? 150.
Who's having? Who'll be our lead?
It's going to be Ramondre, and Damian Harris is going to be active, and Damian Harris is going to have a game tomorrow. He's going to get about 50, 60 yards, 70 yards. You watch. He'll break one for 30. He'll break one for 30 tomorrow. Damian Harris.
Okay. Has he ever agreed? Do you ever agree with me anyway?
I don't agree with you. You took out when you take out the Rothstein glasses, you want to pretend, you're going to pretend, you're going to read numbers now.
Look, they're pretty solid. Listen, Miami's pretty solid against Mark. They're 10th in the league. Okay, they allow 110 yards rushing. So this would be what? I don't do math. This would be 50% over that.
That's smart.
Yeah.
That's all we got.
50%. I just look smart. I'm not actually intelligent. But they'll be 50% over that if it's 150, 60 yards rushing. But they allow 100 a game, 110. They're 11th in the league and with 400. They're one of the better run defenses that we're going to see. I mean, Christian Wilkinson, Raekwon Davis, Seiler, and protecting those linebackers in Baker and your friend and your best friend, Joey, I was dying for this game to come because for all those of you who don't know, I think Marks probably has a disdain for this player more than any other one, I think, in history, perhaps, for the Patriots. And Landon Roberts.
Listen, Landon, listen to me. But
they're solid against the run.
Listen, Witcher called starting to get up there, though, Chris. Your buddy. He's starting to use this Miles Bryant like he did Roberts.
Yeah, but Roberts they're performing well against. I don't know. I just don't know if they're going to be able to run the ball. I have to give the edge to the Dolphins because the Patriots are so damn predictable too in what they do and how they run the ball.
I'm still in the holiday season. I'm thinking of snowflakes and miracles still. Yeah,
he's got snowflakes in his head. All right, Joe. He's got snow. Hey, have you helped your neighbor shovel? Has it snowed there at all?
We had a little bit of snow, but it wasn't a lot a couple of weeks ago. We really haven't had a snowstorm yet, so I haven't had to do that. I haven't had to watch him fall on his face yet.
Because if you remember last year, Mark watched his neighbor fall down in the snow and just laughed his ass off. Didn't want no good spirit, holiday spirit, whatever, And then you fell off a ladder. See, that's karma.
I did. That's karma. That's karma.
Who is this neighbor? His neighbor potentially is Harry. You are
He
lit.
must.
So are we.
That's a conversation for another day. But you know
Another
what?
day.
I don't know. I don't know who his neighbor is, but he must hate him. He must hate Mark. You know.
I don't even know. I don't even talk to him.
He keeps brushing his leaves into your.
He put the leaves
yard.
in my yard. That finished him off with me.
Yeah. So
Done.
anyway, but no, I don't know. I don't know if they're going to be able to run the ball. And I honestly think, I mean, as messed
You're
up
not
as
going to
this
say
sounds,
they're going to throw the ball. Please,
I think they have a
tell me
better
that.
chance of throwing the ball against this team than running the ball. Simply,
Did you
and if
already
you're just
break
looking
open? Did you already
if you're
break
looking
open
at-
that $4 champagne
under
for New Year's?
conversation yet? For an, you know what? I guarantee you, next week when we come on, we're going to have some special things Mark's going to be talking about. And Catone, he was saving, and no Catone's comments today because he's got a good one. I
get a picture every year New Year's Eve about the same time. I get a picture of him with this. God knows what he paid for this god awful champagne. He's guzzling it.
I will not admit. I will let her in. I will not admit to any of this. Okay, I will not admit to any of this. But throwing the ball, I do think they have a decent shot of throwing the ball. I mean, listen, the Dolphins, they've been decimated with injuries in their secondary. They're 28th in the league. They allow 6.5 per pass, 245 yards a game, okay? And that's 16th. The 6.5 is 16th, 28th in the league in yards allowed. And the fact that they're missing Byron Jones, Brandon Jones, Needham, they're missing these guys. And by the way, Needham's a guy that we thought we could throw on in the first game. Remember? That why weren't they testing him? Well, he's had a decent year, and then he's out. Xavier and Howard, he was a late add to the injury report yesterday with a knee
that's
injury.
a big loss. If they lose him, that's a big loss. If he don't play, Chris, because he's been the one guy left back there that's been holding them together.
It's not that he got on the injury list and limited. He didn't practice.
So that's big.
If you're going to throw the ball, you should be able to throw it. But again, Bradley Chubb comes back. I'm not sure. Mark, did they throw the ball? They throw the ball on this team?
I don't know. I think, Chris, I understand what you're talking about with the secondary, but I honestly think Miami is capable of putting a pass rush together because our offensive line has performed so poorly. You know, I just don't know. I still think the running game is going to be the key because I don't think anybody thinks we're going to run the ball against this team. But I honestly think that's the strength of our offensive line is run blocking, not pass blocking. Pass blocking, they can't protect.
Well, we'll see. Hopefully Mark's right and can set up some of that play action to pick on that secondary that's really hurt. So in flipping to the other side of the ball, we talked about as far as the Dolphins running. I mean, they haven't been all that stellar. They're 27th in the league. I mean, that kind of thing. Yeah. Our run defense has been pretty stout. I mean, these guys our defensive front, our front has been pretty damn good this season. I mean, would you say that? And so it's minus a couple of games, the edges have been pretty good too.
No, they have been. I don't think Miami's going to run the ball at all against us. I think we're going to have the advantage when they're running the ball, Chris. I think the way we lose tomorrow, if we lose, is because Teddy Bridgewater throws 3 or 4 touchdown passes.
Well, let's talk about that.
And Waddle and Hill.
Yeah,
without
break
our
it down.
Secondary. Well, Chris, without the two Joneses, and like I said, Mills has been banged up. I mean, I still don't think, even if he's on the field, Chris, I don't think Mills is 100%, right? So even if he's on the field, it's hit or miss. Waddle and Hill, Chris, have been on the field, and I'm going to tell you who else is going to hurt us. The tight end always hurts us. The Miami tight end, what's his name? Gesicki.
He hasn't been used a lot. In fact, he was talked about today in possible losing him in free agency because they're not using the tight end all that much. But in this game against the Patriots, how bad they are covering tight ends.
They'll use him. Yeah. Bridgewater will use him. I don't necessarily know if he'll go to look for those receivers as much as Tua. So you may see the tight end utilized more in this game. But,
well, Waddle
I think Miami's going to have to throw the ball. Miami's going to have a big game throwing the ball, Chris, to beat us. I don't think they're going to run it against us.
Waddle and Hill are lethal. I mean, they're absolutely lethal. They're both over 1,000 yards. Yeah, they don't have Tua throwing them the ball. But the bigger problem is, and you mentioned some of these injuries, who you left out, who's on who is limited in practice, is Jonathan Jones again. So it isn't just Mills that's may come back, and how will he do? It's Jonathan Jones
Chris,
limping around.
imagine if Jonathan Jones
Or he had
doesn't
a
play.
chest
What if
injury.
Jonathan Jones doesn't play?
No, that's it. It's all. Look, I would have loved our defense in this game with Bridgewater playing. Honestly, if Marcus Jones was playing in this game, because that's what he's there to do. He's there to run across the field with Hill. Yeah. He's there to play that under coverage while you protect over the top, you know, with the safety, you know, and he can stay with Hill. And that's without that guy. I mean, you better get a pass rush. You better keep Bridgewater from moving around. And I say move around in the pocket. You know, his days of scrambling, getting out and running are gone, but he still has the ability to shift in that pocket, to move a little bit, to avoid the rush. And Judon, as well as he played in the first half, and I don't think it's his fault. I think he's getting doubled a lot, which is why I think Uche's numbers are going up. Listen, Uche's getting held. You watch these games, he's getting his hands into the face. He's getting ripped down, I mean, they're just not calling a lot of penalties against guys that are blocking him. But you better get a pass rush. You better get one, because these guys are going to run all over the field. And offensively, you don't have the right. You don't have the horses to
keep up. No, if it's a shootout, you can't win a shootout. That's for sure.
So you give that edge to the Dolphins, yeah.
Throwing the ball, I give the edge to the Dolphins when they're throwing the ball. Running the ball, I think we can stop them. I give the edge to our defense. But throwing the ball, Chris, I give the edge to our defense, to Miami. I mean.
So then overall, key, your offensive, defensive key to victory tomorrow.
My key to victory, Chris, I still think on offense. And I say this almost, yeah, right. I almost say this every week, but I really think it's running the ball so you can set up your play action. And if you, because our passing game is so inconsistent. I mean, maybe, you know what? I got a better key for victory. Maybe have an offensive coach show up. How's that?
Wait, how about this, Mark? Are the Sisters of the Poor, are they available tomorrow?
The Little Sisters of the Poor.
The Little Sisters of...
Joe, that's next week. I'll use that next week in my analysis of the Buffalo game. Trust me. The Little Sisters of the Poor will come out next week, because we're going to get our doors blown off next week. I've been talking about that game for 13 weeks when they go to Buffalo.
Well, don't jump the gun. What's your key to victory on defense?
Victory on defense, Chris, is my keys to victory, and you mentioned this earlier, is the pass rush. You're going to need 7, 8 sacks, 9. You're going to have a huge sack game and have Bridgewater running for his life, because if he has time, you're going to get lit up, because we're not going to be able to hold off the receivers. We just don't have the secondary to do it with all the injuries.
Well, my offensive key to victory is getting the ball down the field. That's it. To me, that's what it is.
And they just won't do it, Chris.
They won't do it, and I think they need to utilize Thornton a little better. I give him crap for not catching that ball, but you know, he must have been surprised the ball was even thrown to him. So
no, I agree with you, Chris. He should get crap for that.
But again, if you can push the ball down the field a little bit, I don't know if Hunter Henry is going to play, but if he doesn't, I know Jonnu Smith's already been ruled out. So you got that other tight end that I don't even know who he is, but he's coming in the game. So I mean, you got to try to get the ball down the field a little bit. To me, that's what it is. If you are going to run the ball, set it up for play action. And defensively, I'm with Mark. You have to put pressure on Bridgewater. You got to keep him on his spot, keep him in the pocket. Barmore has to have a pretty good game to get that center push, and allow Uche and allow Judon to come off the edges and get some things done. And you got to get the lead against this team, because special teams wise, everything is poor right now. Everything is not well coached. Every coach has to go. So your prediction, Mark, for this game?
I'm going to surprise you. 27-24 Patriots. 27-24 Patriots.
Wow. Whoa, Mark comes out with something. Well, look, I'm staying with my original. I didn't think they'd win a game going on to that trip to the starting in Arizona. I didn't think they would win another game for the rest of the season. I thought they would go 6 and what is that, 11? Okay.
And they have, Chris, if Kyler Murray didn't get hurt in that game in the opening drive.
We don't know. We're never going to know, because that dude could have run on us all day long. So to me, it's going to be 33-20 Miami. Miami wins this game. I don't think the Patriots win another game. That's it.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's
been
my
your
that's my
prediction
key.
right along.
You know, that's my key. So
Yep.
that's my prediction. So Pat's preview was presented by Special Sauce Podcast. What's your special sauce? SpecialSaucePodcast.com. Hey, when we come back, step up to the sports book. We're gonna have a little fun here. We'll hopefully give you our final of the year locks of the week in Sunday Spread right after this.
It's the Special Sauce Podcast. You liking this song? This sauce is good, man.
Easy start up is finance. Kratom Custom and let 'em read.
With your host, Marcus Aurelius.
Back in with more Corso and Catone, the real deal New England feel. And now it gets real. Joe, I hope we got the wash, right? Because we're going to get real with Sunday Spread. We're going to give you our final locks of the week for the year. Sunday Spread, Joe. What are you writing now?
So I'm working over here. You're talking about nonsense. I'm working.
That's why we are the real deal New England feel. It's going to be real. Okay, Mr. Catone. Everybody spent a crap ton of money all this holiday season. You're bitching and complaining last week about Cyber this and Kiss Your Ass Thursday and all these sales and things and Black Friday.
He had some write-ins.
And the
like
amount
Kiss Your Ass Thursday.
That's
Yeah.
right, you know.
Come
we
on
did actually. There's a lot of people that want that. So it's going to be a Mark Catone holiday. That'll be the holiday. The Kiss Your Ass Thursday will be Mark
Kiss Your
Catone
Ass
Day.
Thursday. I want that copyrighted. I want the copyright for that. So there's
Copyright,
no infringement.
copyright
There's
Corso
no
with Catone,
infringement.
Mark Catone, 2022.
Here we go.
So give these people some hope. They're going to be getting their credit card bills in a couple of weeks, and they're going to be collapsing all over the place.
So I'm going to take a little bit of a different take on this week, since it is the college football playoff and it is bowl season. I got a 5-teamer working right now.
5-teamer.
Listen, I had Tennessee last night. I got Alabama today. They're rolling. I got my lock of the week in college football. They're going to win by 100. 100. The Georgia Bulldogs are going to wipe the field with the Ohio State Buckeyes. Take that to the bank. The line is 5.5, 6. They're going to beat them by 56. Trust me.
TCU is a plus 1,600.
Yeah. Well, guess what? Michigan's going to beat them. But my lock of the week in college football, go to the bank and just bet Georgia. Please bet Georgia. Please.
But you got to put it with something. You're not going to win any money betting Georgia.
I got it. Listen, I got them with Tennessee. I got them with Alabama, who I think is winning right now. I got Georgia. I like Michigan's going to pound the ball down TCU's throat. They ain't going to be able to handle them. And then you finish it off on January 2nd with a nice cigar. You watch the USC Trojans roll with the Heisman Trophy quarterback Caleb Williams. They will roll. That's my college picks.
Well, thank you very much, by the way, for keeping that to yourself.
My NFL lock of the week is the Seattle Seahawks. At home, the Jets are favored. The Jets shouldn't be favored over the Little Sisters of the Poor, Joe. The Jets shouldn't be favored. Okay? Seattle at home.
Okay. Well, listen, here's the only problem with all your college picks, okay? By the time anybody sees this, okay, the games are already gone. They can't get the bet in at that point.
Georgia, they can get the bet in on Georgia. Georgia is tonight.
What time did it kick off?
Our show is airing is on 7:00. The game starts after. You got plenty of time.
Okay. Well, thank you for keeping that to yourself from me all week long with all these college games. I'm not a college guy, but thanks. I appreciate that. I couldn't have used the help there, Mark. That's it. I had a 14 parlay a teaser going 2 weeks ago, man. It was perfect. right up until the end, and the night game. For me, I stay with the pros. Mark got his lock of the week. I'm going to give you my lock, and nobody will expect this. Cleveland travels to Washington, okay? The Cleveland Browns play in Washington. Washington is now playing Wentz. Wentz is going to start in this game, which I'm sorry. I am not a believer in this guy. I think that's a huge mistake putting this guy in the field at all. I don't know if Heineke is hurt. I don't know what's going on with him, but you're going to put Wentz on the field. Cleveland's getting 2.5 going to Washington, and I think Cleveland's going to win the game outright. Forget the 2. Don't worry about the 2.5. They get that anyway, but I think Cleveland wins this, and I think that's a lock of the week. A couple of the games to look for. This Buffalo-Cincinnati game, I am now on board. I am on the train. I am on the Cincinnati train, boys. And Cincinnati's getting one at home. I do not like the way Buffalo has been playing coming down the stretch. I think they're a beatable team, especially on defense. I have no idea who the hell is going to handle Boyd, Higgins, and Chase in that secondary for Buffalo. No clue. And I think Cincinnati is going to run away with this game. And Buffalo's going to get exposed, which means the Patriots are going to really get their ass kicked next week. So put Cleveland with Cincinnati. And, hey, you know what? If you want anything else, how about Jacksonville at Houston, Mark? Jacksonville's giving up 3. I like that team, too.
Yeah, I like Jacksonville. That would have been my other game. My other NFL game would be Jacksonville, because I don't know how Houston, every week the lines are low against this Houston team. Jacksonville wins. I think Jacksonville's the division winner.
Yeah.
Tennessee lost again. Jacksonville's going to win that division and is going to be seeded in the playoffs. Can you imagine Jacksonville, the way they started the season?
They are, and they probably should. Just real quick before we go, and with this Denver Kansas City game, Kansas City's favored by 13. Mark, can they actually cover that?
Yeah, they'll cover that. They'll win by 53 because Denver stinks too. There's college teams that would beat Denver. Denver stinks. Is John Elway still associated with Denver?
I don't think so.
All right, because whoever pulled that trade for Russell Wilson should be terminated immediately. Terminated.
We talked about that. We said it in the offseason. All these people that were anointing the AFC West teams, like the Raiders and Denver, right? And even even the Chargers to some degree, although they come on late. I said it. Wilson, just because you got Wilson doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. And it certainly
I'm going to give you another
nothing.
little nugget to chew on. At home, even though the quarterback may not play, Jalen Hurts may not play, I still think Philadelphia is going to win and win big, because they'll clinch home field advantage throughout the playoffs and the number 1 seed. I think they're giving 6 or 6.5. I think they're going to annihilate the team. They're going to win big, because Gardner Minshew, actually, he didn't play bad against Dallas. Yeah, he's not Jalen Hurts, but at home, does he still got that mustache, that 70s porn star mustache? He looks like a 70s porn star with that mustache, by the way.
He does. He looks like, like in Seinfeld, buck naked.
Yeah.
Name. But yeah, no, I think he is playing. It's all good stuff. So everybody, the final locks of the week for the season, even though you're betting it on New Year's Day, hey, go with it. Throw some teasers in there. Get 6 points. A lot, not as good odds, but you know what? It helps. It helps. Bring that Kansas City line down to 7 if you want. So Sunday Spread was presented by Studio 42 Designs. For all your graphic design needs, studio42designs.com. That's our show that's our final for the year. Corso and Catone was presented by the Pats Nation, the only Patriots post-game show worth watching. And hey, join us for the Pats Nation post-game coverage on this show next week, 7 p.m. Eastern. Mark and I are going to have all your Pats Dolphins breakdown. And who knows, it may get real interesting if the Patriots are able to pull that game out. And we're going to preview the Pats season finale against the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo. We don't know yet what time that game's going to kick off. And we're going to have Catone's comments, a very special Catone's comments for the first of the year for you. And again, we'll give you our first locks of the week for the season, for the year in Sunday Spread. Try to make you some money. Gentlemen, this is our last show of the year, and it's been a good one.
Yeah, it's been a good year. Let me tell you something. I like some of the things we've done with the show. I like the Sunday spread. I think that's good. And as Chris said, next week will be our New Year's resolutions, and I will save that for Catone's comments because I do have some things to say about these people who make these New Year's resolutions, and I am going to tell you about my New Year's resolutions. But in all seriousness, Happy New Year to everyone that, listens to the show, and to Chris and to Joe, and have a, safe night tonight and a prosperous New Year. And if you listen to, our locks of the week, it will be prosperous. It will be prosperous. But in all seriousness, Happy New Year to everybody. It's been a great year. Listen, we're going into, what year are we going? Is it year 2 or 3 of Corso and Catone? I don't even know.
We're getting close to 100 shows.
For those of you that are listening on and not watching live, it's New Year's Eve. I already got a cup. I already started.
He's got a cup. You know what though? Later on, you're gonna have that nicer glass. With you can't put bourbon in that thing. And that solo piece of crap
Joe,
you got over
he'll
there.
have that $5 champagne bottle. He'll be sending it to me about, later tonight. He sends it.
Well, we're gonna hear Mark's New Year's resolution next year. Hopefully next week, next year, and hopefully it's not something you immediately blow in the same breath. But Joe, any New Year's resolution for you?
What do you mean, like some advice or something like that?
I don't know. Advice, resolution. What are you resolute about? Are you resolute about giving advice? Go ahead.
Like how to get a stain out of a shirt?
Yeah, right.
No.
That's what you.
Nothing.
Our wonderful producer. And that's all you got for the people? That's it? That's all you got?
No. Happy New Year to everybody. And thank you to all of our listeners, our fans out there. Those of you who text in and email us and call in for the heated hotline and give us those heated hotline opinionated opinions. We love it.
Opinions, yeah.
All opinions. I love it. And thank you to all those fans, and thank you to everybody out there. But we will start off fresh next year, and hopefully everything you guys talked about today, the Patriots actually do have their destiny in their hands the next 2 games and pull off some wins. And, it is a Happy New Year. So for them and for the rest of the fans out there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And listen, to you guys too, Mark agrees. This show doesn't go without our producer director, Joe Guarneri. Listen, Joe, you did a fantastic job. You always do a fantastic job. Just putting up with us is a fantastic job. Everything you see and hear is due to Joe, and we certainly appreciate that. Mark, listen, man, I'm nothing without my other half. So thank you, pal. And, the show's just flat out boring without you. A lot of knowledge, a lot of good stuff. I appreciate it. And to you both and your families and yours, Happy New Year. And to you out there, Happy New Year to you as well. All the support, everything you got. I can't improve on anything these guys said. So I'll just thank you and wish you all a Happy New Year. Hey, next week we're going to try to bring back some Celtics talk, some Bruins talk. Maybe we'll get into some hot stove topics. Anything you want to discuss, give us a call and heated hotline. We'll be ready for it. We are Corso and Catone, the real deal New England feel. Happy New Year, everyone.
Find Corso and Catone on iHeartRadio, iTunes, or wherever you podcast. And subscribe to the YouTube channel, Corso and Catone, and catch the chaos at 7 p.m. on Saturday.